Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this panel on mental health. My name is Fernando Tirado. I'm with the Bronx Coalition to support Hurricane Maria evacuees. We're a coalition of government employees, health-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and other community advocates who have come together to help people throughout the city, but especially those who have relocated to the Bronx. I want to thank our audience for coming here. It looks like we have a nice group. I want to thank our distinguished panel for taking the time here today. And if we could do a brief introduction of them, and then we'll go the format for the event. So on my right, we have
Fernando Rouge from Roberto Clemente Center. I'm a psychologist in training in the center.
And to his right,
Mi nombre es Oscar Ocasio from Roberto Clemente Center. I'm here at Hospital Corporation. I'm a clinical psychologist there, and I'm working there for 13 years. It's a community clinic, and we're going to talk a little bit more in my presentation.
then we have Dr. Munoz. Can you please introduce yourself?
Of course, hi to everyone. I'm Dr. Angel Munoz, psychologist and also coordinator for the School for Caregivers of Elderly at the Pontificia Catholic University of Puerto Rico.
And wrapping it up with Dr. Torres.
Yes, hello, my name is Leonel Torres. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist that I work for Centro as a research associate and also work at a private practice.
Great. So I'd also like to thank our host, Hunter College and Centro, the Center for Puerto Rican Studies here at Hunter. Today's panel is about discussing the mental health challenges faced by Puerto Ricans on the island, those who have relocated to the States, and what are the resources available to them. So before I begin, I want to take a poll of the audience. By quick show of hands, who here is a member of the Hunter community, either as faculty or staff or student? Okay. Who here has a background or is currently studying in mental health?
Background in mental health.
Background in mental health. Okay. Has anyone here been involved in the direct recovery or support services in Puerto Rico? Okay. How about indirect recovery or services in Puerto Rico? Okay, good to know. So I want to give an opportunity for our panelists to give a greater introduction of themselves. We'll start again over in my right. Just tell us a little bit about your organization. And I believe that your topic is A Journey to Our Roots, Puerto Ricans' Collective Experience and Clinical Interventions Following Hurricane Maria in New York City. So if either one of you would like to start?
So this is the main presentation?
Yes, we're in the main presentation.
Okay, maybe Leonel is one of the ones that started and then we follow.
Sure, because we could.
Okay, yeah, let's just switch. No worries. Good afternoon. It's such an honor to be surrounded by colleagues who are doing such an amazing work with mental health here and for Puerto Rico after Maria. As clinical psychologists, mental health providers, and community members, the mental health aftermath is without doubt an area not necessarily addressed like it should. In fact, this is not new. It has happened before with other hurricanes in the mainland. Just to name a few, just Katrina and Sandy. Even to this day, communities affected continue to be reporting clinical disorders, and this is post-traumatic stress disorder, mood disorders, and even suicidal behavior. Also, has been, even to this day, there has been unmet mental health services, even for Katrina and Sandy. Of course, Puerto Rico, as you all know, have a long history of complex historical and other aspect that has been affecting Puerto Rico long before Maria, and that accounts for the limited economic policies, congressional policies as well, and the increase in national debt, and now the austerity measures that we have in Puerto Rico. So we also have been dealing with this, and also in addition to this, our geographical position, which also we are constantly affected by hurricanes. So, and this will continue to increase due to the climate change. So has been important because at this moment, several factors have been linked to the aftermath of hurricanes. So some of them like flooding, sustaining physical injury, losing a loved one, displacement, relocation, loss of property, personal finances, losing employment, lack of access to food, difficulties in requesting social and health services, just a few. So due to this, we have been working on identified mental health response in Puerto Rico. So we have already trying to do, we have different instances where to highlight, okay, because everyone, we have been dealing, and also, again, we have not learned from other hurricanes in the past. So we have been seeing like, so how can we address this unmet healthcare services? And what can we do about the linkages and referrals? So we don't know anything about that. AMSCA has reported suicide cases that have been increased on September. Yet we have to be cautious about the way that we report this data by the media. So why? Because they have some complex issues that we have to consider, the individual traumatic experiences and their own, in addition to other factors, environmental issues. So before we make the assumption, there's other aspects that we have to consider. Yet there has been a link to suicide ideation. And in fact, AMSCA has been reported an increased amount of calls for suicidal behavior. And what is this? Suicide ideation and attempts and threats. So since December, we have been seeing this pattern increasing, and this is consistent with other studies conducted for Katrina and Sandy. And this will be expected to be more profound because of course, all the circumstances that Puerto Rico is going through. So again, we don't have any idea of how are we working with identify communities in need, and how are we providing mental health services. We know by how can I say, the boca a boca. So sorry, it has
anecdotal.
I'm sorry?
Anecdotal,
yes. Well, we have not documented that kind of data. So in Centro we don't provide service. This is an academia. Our main purpose is to distribute data. So we have been working on this proposal. We already gathered data from FEMA for flooded zones, also from AMSCA. And we are waiting for the Red Cross and the Department of Health of the United States, of the US, to see if we can also try to record that data by municipality. The importance of this, as we all know, we have something that also, some of the barriers that we encounter is the topography of Puerto Rico. We don't know so many, the healthcare provider was fragmented, and in some cases it was really difficult to go to certain places. So again, also, there was no phone call service. So there has been other areas that this has been affected the recovery of Puerto Rico. And again, every entity at this moment, there's no accurate data in terms of, okay, we help these people, we contact them, but what kind of services we provide? What kind of referrals they needed, or the linkage, do we make sure that these people receive the treatment? So we don't have any data on that. So in order for us to do this, so Centro has this commitment of elaborating, and in fact, yesterday was launched this map where people can have access, and there's so many layers, including flooding zones, so people can be prepared and have mental health care providers, community providers can be, and I include community members because there has been a lot of support from communities as well. And this accounts for faith-based organizations and nonprofit. So yeah, so that's one of the main projects. At the end, I can share more information about that. And the other project is about mapping healthcare hospitals before and after Maria. So after this, of course, the main purpose is to publicly and for free send this information. That's our goal for Centro.
Thank you very much, Dr. Torres. So I just, as a matter of format, I'm gonna ask a quick question, and I'm gonna have one member of the audience asking 1-point question to Dr. Torres. So Dr. Torres, we do have some data now that says that there has been an increase of about 30 to 50% of suicides on the island from currently as opposed to last year. What is your data, or what data sets exist that can help us to determine what our next steps, or what action should we be taking to get a handle on the number of suicides that are taking place on the island?
Yeah, again, the number of cases on suicide, we have to be cautious about this and how the media has been reporting this. Again, this is a complex suicide. It's something that we have to consider. There's other element, clinical elements that we have to consider for each individual. Again, suicide, and SAMHSA has been doing this. They have systematic review of literature that when they show that there's no link between increased suicide cases and natural phenomena. What they agree, and there's a consensus, is in suicidal behavior, and that includes suicidal ideation. So that is something that we have for sure. That has been confirmed. So how can we address this? Well, the main purpose of doing this kind of studies is to document how can we help, and where are these places that they need this kind of support. Flooding has been linked also to mental health. So it's like triggers for, and also blackouts. So there's certain things that we have to consider. Some municipalities have been facing this even to this day. So how can we address these issues? Well, we have to first identify those areas and have better equipped and teamwork already there. At least the government and local entities can identify, okay, so this is going on at this moment, at this place. And so how can we help? Yes, by identifying those areas. And later on, yes, making sure how can we link them with services. And that's the most important thing here.
Great. So I'll take a question now from the audience. So we'll start over here. One question, then we're going to move on to the next panel and then have another participant.
Hi, Dr. Torres, Pagan. It's Dr. Caban. You sent me yesterday.
Yes.
I got here 10 minutes late, sorry about the question, but I'm not sure. Are you looking only to gather information on data that's out there and what's being done and how to link services, or are you also planning directly from El Centro to run studies to get data if there's none?
At this moment, what I'm trying to do is like documenting the mental health response. If, for instance, there's nonprofit or other kind of organizations, or even the academians, like Angel, he will also talk about this, and you know, identify those mental health response, and not only identify how has been the process, and if we are able to pinpoint those areas where they have been report this incidents or this, this is also something similar that happened with the Red Cross. Red Cross had this idea of when they go there, the help was fragmented to these communities, and one of the things that they found is like they have not clear protocol in terms of how can they provide help. They consider this idea of notion of significant contacts. What do we know about significant contacts? We don't know. What's the standard in how to approach this? We don't know. another thing that they also that they have no clear idea is, okay, we were there and this is a significant contact. Okay, so the linkage again, there's no other way also to evidence that if they linkage or they make this kind of okay, so this person need help, okay, so we send them here, things like that. So we have been identifying that kind of issues across the board, not only with the local or federal entities, but also with communities. So how can we also, and again, this is also something that has been happening with other hurricanes around here in the mainland as well. So I think it's about preparedness. I think it's about communication, collaboration, and also to have public available data for everyone to be able to use that data, and community members also, including community members. So
I'd like to
I answered that question.
ask Dr. Torres one or two questions, if there are any points about his mission or his statements that he mentioned. Do either of you have any questions, or Dr. Munoz, do you have any questions that you can ask Dr. Torres?
No, not at this point.
One comment, Leo. I think that it's a fact that the number of suicides in the island is up, and the line that they established to reach mental health and suicide prevention is also up. I think part of the problem is when the government response was chaotic. That is, for me, that is a fact. Okay, and when response is very difficult because Puerto Rico is a small island, but they have really challenged find mental health services, especially in the mountain. That was one of the zones that was just blocked in the Hurricane Maria. And I think the effort that Dr. Leo is trying to do is just putting right the effort and see if the fear that I have is true or not, that the connection between the needs and the response is abysmal.
Is abysmal. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to our next panelists. If they could please introduce themselves. We have Dr. Oscar Ocasio and Fernando from the Roberto Clemente Center at Gouverneur Health, New York City Health and Hospitals. And your title today, or the topic you'll be discussing today, is A Journey to Our Roots, Puerto Ricans' Collective Experience and Clinical Interventions Following Hurricane Maria in New York City. So if Dr. Woodward, we start with you.
Let's see, it's like 3 or 5 minutes, so it's something that's very complex. I'm gonna go directly to the point. Who we are? We are Roberto Clemente Center, a community clinic that is working for 35 years with immigrant, pure urban, using the family systemic ecological approach. What is this? That means that we understand the person in his context, his cultural context, his social class context, where he lives, where they come from. And this is found that for us, is very important when we diagnose the situation. And I use diagnose the situation, and I don't use diagnose the person. That is an important difference. So we are here. We are very proud to be part of the public health system. We have some kind of principle that help us, I think, working with immigrants and with that called Puerto Rican refugees from the Hurricane Maria. And I use the word refugees because I think Hurricane Maria is a major disaster catastrophe, and refugee and the way that the legal implication of the refugee respond better to the needs of the Puerto Rican people than other words that is sugarcoat the reality. Okay. First thing, we believe that any immigration is with a process that we call acculturation process. Okay? And we believe that this acculturation process in the scientific field, they have a struggle because if you try to read for the acculturation process, they're gonna, a lot of dictionary, they're gonna send you to the assimilation process. So for one, it's assimilation, and for the other, it's an integration. And what is the difference? Assimilate is assimilate to the culture, to the host culture. Integration means that you conserve your culture and live in the cultural host, in the host culture, no? And that is important because in the scientific field, of course, it's a struggle, but they find that if we know who we are, and we know what we have inside, we can have a better opportunity to adapt. Okay? And overcome any challenge that comes with the immigration process. One of the principles of the approach that we use is that we understand that any immigration process is enough reason to reach emotional security. When Hurricane Maria comes, I remember that the one thing that I do, I go to a Staples, I print a poster, and I tell, let's talk about Hurricane Maria, Diaspora, immigration, and mental health. We become the clinic, and we start receiving people. And we start contact people outside in the field to tell, hey, we are here, we can maybe help. Because immediately the Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, I'm born and raised in Puerto Rico, so I know what it is being in the middle of a hurricane. I know it's something very traumatic. Then you have people that for any reason, for diverse of reasons, immigrate to Florida, to New York, and other parts of the United States. So understand simple things like the subway system, like the protocols, like the bureaucracy. It's really hard when you have a theater. It's really hard when you have any kind of overwhelm or stress. So one of the things that we believe also that we struggle with the political dimension is that we believe that the mental health field is something to work for remediations or remediative way. We need one person that is sick, we can help, but also it's a preventive medicine. Okay, we don't need, nobody need to talk with a psychologist or other therapists, have a diagnosis. Unfortunately, the medical insurance and the law sometimes support more than the psychotherapy, therapies, more like a remediative approach and no preventive approach. In order, everyone can access a therapist, but in order that the medical insurance pay for the therapy, they need a diagnosis. And I really like that this change. I really believe that any person needs to have a diagnosis to talk with a person that we can prevent the thing get worse. The same happened with the refugees, Puerto Rican refugees. They start here and start asking questions about who is receiving psychotherapy services, who is receiving medical services, when maybe the first response needs to include a therapy from scratch. So what we can do, what we can know, what we do in the so we do in the center something very thing. I believe that collective experience is the best way to. No tengo el borrador por aquí. Está bien. Allá. That's why the reason. So we start recently, Diaspora por Puerto Rico called the center, called me, and Leonel called me, and they have 43 families in the hotel as a shelter. Okay, and they tell me, look, this family, most of them cannot find mental health or services. One of the things that I do, I design something that start working. Yes, every migration traditionally need that we call in Spanish cabeza de playa, beachhead. This is a metaphor for the military. When the military invasion, they create a cabeza de playa, a sitio where they can find communication and food. In the past, the pattern of migration create cabeza de playa. There is no other mean than community. Okay. Sometimes they go. Okay? So that facilitate that the people create a safe zone. Now we know that the 43 families, they are in different hotels, they don't really get together, they don't talk as they have problems in common. So one of the things that we start is we create the cabeza de playa, a group, a collective experience to start talking about what happened. To create a cohesion, to create a better communication, to create a rate of mutual support. Then they have particularity. And from then, we can know if some of them need individual therapy, some of them can need psychiatric follow-up, some of them can need family therapy. So we create the collective experience and the particular experience with that. Yes.
So I'm sorry. So let me start by asking a quick question, then I'll make sure that you get to answer a point.
Okay.
And then we're going to move on to another panel.
Okay.
So very quick question is, we know that the population that is here now, those 43 families, have a breakdown in social cohesion. What is it that organizations like Diaspora for Puerto Rico and other and Hunter College can do to either supplement or help to restore a sense of social cohesion for those people and for other refugees, let's call it what it is, and so that they could get back to the new normal?
First thing, asking them. But asking them individually is gonna support the fragmentation of the services and the need. Asking them collective. Invite them here. You have the facility. Invite them to a lunch, for example. And then start talking with them. We need to understand that the first step in every mental health treatment is help returning the voice to the people that we are in front. Great.
Yeah, I mean,
So, yes, if you could please.
Yeah, it's all pretty much connected to what I was going to say, because I was going to ask, what under what guise to bring them together, because remember that mental therapy, the stigmatism, especially in our culture. So if bringing them together, like for, let's say, a coffee, and then from there create a safe haven that allows them to share their experience, of Maria, and then having been displaced here or in Florida or lo que sea. So the way
just to help you with your point, if you could first, for the purpose of those on the video, introduce yourself and your name and what organization or affiliation you're with, and if you have another question.
My name is Carmen Cruz, and I'm retired, but I did initiate and organized the asylum concession New York City for Puerto Rico. And one of the areas that I really, when I went in throughout the interview circuit, the one area that I emphasized was surviving trauma. Because back in October, I was in connection, in communication with Puerto Rico, and I knew that there was suicide, and no one was really talking about it. So I really picked up on it early on, and like I stated, I made it a focus of conversation when I was interviewed by TV and radio.
So is there a particular question that you'd like to ask with regards to health and hospitals?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it was
Okay.
just, in terms of just pointing out that in order to get our people to speak, not that you have to manipulate them or not that you have an agenda, but to create a safe agent that they then feel comfortable in doing so.
The you about something is very important because we receive a lot of critique in the 35 years that Roberto Clemente is working.
I love Roberto Clemente,
Because
by the way.
when first thing when I preach them, I go to the hotel. I don't invite him to the clinic, I go to his place.
Right.
That is important. Then I start with a cuento para hermanos. And a poetry of por la encendida calle antillana, batimba. And then they looking at me, but we start talking. Because the first thing that we need to understand is our culture have the tools to survive to resilience. We need to use it. And then, of course, we have, as a professional, specific skills and tools that we can complement the skills and tools that the culture have. But it's in that direction, not in contrary. Because if not, we're going to have, I'm a doctor, I'm an expert, and I'm going to tell you what you do, and then we're going to fall. And we're going to ask you why, and we're going to write a NIH, a grant, so we can investigate why.
So no, I'm actually going to have to interrupt you and say, we really need to get to the next panelist so that we could continue. And then we're going to ask the question, the panel the audience to participate in a larger Q&A. Okay? All right. So we're going to turn this over now to Fernando.
I think from Dr.
Hey, you can please
Ocasio,
introduce yourself again.
Fernando Rouge from Roberto Clemente Center. I'm a psychologist in training and also a researcher. One of the points that Dr. Ocasio said is about emotion. Why this really works? Because emotion is the first sensation, okay? We feel in the body, we feel in all kind of way. I write something because my English is not quite well, but I try to. No. I need to learn. Okay. I see. The diversity of human experience in the immigration process invite us and also establish an urgency of new looks toward depth that only emotion are able to offer. Okay. When you have lost all hope of a future for the family, the emotional experiences tend to be intense and are imprinted in the family as a memory that transforms the life of each member. Within this process, the immigrant and the family go through an integrative emotional learning, called emotional acculturation. We define as a changes in the emotional patterns due to exposure and contact with a new or a second cultural context. Even when the language is a problem, right? These experiences are associated with acculturation and are structural elements of the relearning that the family makes in order to ensure a certain degree of integration within the new culture. That allows the family to provide a livelihood to be able to develop as is known as a life project. These relearning are essentially emotional, as in a sense all learning is. As I mentioned, the emotional acculturation is an integrative learning process in which the expressive form of the emotion of the immigrant will change as a result of the social interaction where the immigrant develops the expression of an adaptive mechanism which is being built every day. From the integration with others, gathering in a macro-social space where is immersed in a dialectic with those others, where he feels they have a space. Something that can feel like a home, in the sense that it's something that he carries, is intracorporeal, understood from what is built inside of the immigrant, to have a home, where to get there, some space where he can relax and unfold, that is known with the name of home. This is the ultimate end of all immigration. If we can understand this process, we can be more assertive when we provide aid to refugee families to develop that we call a home space. This is very important. We develop this sensation, physical sensation in a social space. For me, in research, experience with the families that we bring to the center was amazing, because emotion was the first issue that we feel when he come to the city, and what services they can get from the clinic or from the city. Okay, that part is very important to understand.
So instead of myself asking a question, I'm going to have two people ask a question, a single point question. So we'll start with you and then with you. Yes. Please introduce yourself, your affiliation, and your question, and then your content.
So, hi, my name is Marilyn Figueroa. I'm a recent graduate of Florida International University. I'm a women and gender studies major, or women's degree. And so actually my question is right in line with what I studied. I'm just curious with mental health data and what's coming. What we're learning now, is there any data regarding mental health and domestic violence, sexual violence, and any spikes in that way that you've seen? And also the suicide data, the 30 to 50% increase, is that broken down more specifically in terms of gender in any way?
So that last part of your question, I'm going to ask that we defer that to the end of the Q&A, because that was the previous panel. So that first part of the question, if you could just repeat it one more time.
Just if there's any data regarding domestic violence on the island, and any spikes, and what are the resources, what's happening. So even in this panel, I'm just curious where the woman's voice is.
That's why I'm asking all the women questions. Just let me know. So if you could please answer that, or as always.
Yeah, I think that the Leo maybe have more information about that. Yes, the last time that I checked, they have a peak also in domestic violence. I don't trust the number of the governor in Puerto Rico right now. I'm sorry to do that, but I need to be honest. They don't know how to count deaths. They don't know how to count also domestic violence. And when you have a blackout in the telephone lines, that is the main source to report and to getting and reach support, you know that you have a lot of cases that is not, you are blind about that. So, and that's it for that. And for the LGBTQ communities, it's worse, because they have on top of that all the discrimination that they traditionally do. So right now, I want to see that a good opportunity, but to do the things right, counting. But the truth is, and I need to be honest, I don't think that the number was right. I don't think that the governor of Puerto Rico or the federal government have any capacity right now on the side to produce a number that are valid and confidentiality.
Great. So if we could have your question, you could please introduce yourself and your affiliation.
My name is Daisy de Jesus. I'm a retired clinical social worker, and I worked at Gouverneur Hospital in the 80s. No affiliation with Roberto Clemente, okay? But I worked with the elderly in a program in the Department of Psychiatry. And so I'm a bit confused here as to the modality that you use at Roberto Clemente, which I always heard was more the systemic Munition model, okay, and the Ackerman Institute for Family Therapy. That's what you guys used back then. Are you still using that model? And also, how many of the clients that you have are basically from the community prior to Hurricane Maria's population coming to New York? Because I'm hearing two things and I'm not sure.
And when you say clients, you mean the refugees that
Now,
are?
I'm talking about refugees, Puerto Ricans and not refugees. You have to remember that we're citizens, even though we're lefty. If you go that way, then people are going to say, oh, then we knew that you weren't citizens of the U.S. because that's what the Midwest is saying, and that is what Trump is saying. I know your philosophy, okay, guys? I know your philosophy, but please, you got to be careful with that because it's going to hurt us with Mr. Trump and his people in Congress.
So if you could just answer.
Well, we differ about the 10 refugees, yes, but that's okay. That's okay, and I understand also the struggle because we participate in the field and we know.
So I'm not pro-state.
I know. Friendly fire is always good. But don't make sure that don't kill. Yeah. We use the systemic approach, psychological systemic approach, and part of the psychological systemic approach is understand the political context and the history. Okay. In order to understand what I use to work with Puerto Rican refugees, to understand that and to different with you. The culture is very important, and I start with that. Okay, then I create a safe zone to provide a space that they can talk about the thing that they have in common. Then this is gonna lead us to also talk the thing that the particular thing, and the particular thing we can evaluate if they need a more individual approach, more family approach, but we continue returning to the collective one. Because I think a problem, a catastrophe like that, it's important that they share not only the experience, or the resources. I have this problem, and you have this problem, I resolve this, and this kind of communication is good. In this, and the Center Roberto Clemente, we have the space to do that.
Okay.
I don't know if I answer your question.
No. Sure. Okay. So just to move along, I'm sorry. Somebody want to speak on video? No. Okay. So just to reintroduce Dr. Angel Munoz Alicea from Pontificia Catolica.
Catholic University of Puerto Rico.
Yes. So if you could I know that you're talking about support interventions from the Academy for the elderly population and their caregivers post Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. And so this is a vulnerable population that once again we need to focus on. And if you could just start us off, Dr. Munoz, with your background and this particular topic.
Okay, so hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm a clinical psychologist and also a coordinator of the program for the caregivers of the elderly population. I want to talk a little, I know we don't have much time, but I want to start talking about the program. We worked two phases during the impact of the Hurricane Maria. Our first phase started a few days after the Maria's impact, and we visit distant communities. We bring supplies, but also offer emotional support with a group of professionals. At many requests for many people, we have to increase the visit and joint effort with the Clinic of Interdisciplinary Services with graduate students in psychology and also social work. We went to churches, refugee centers, famous assistance centers, parks, and also houses. Some of the stories that we have to face and gave us a better perspective about this situation. For example, we heard caregivers that were cancer patients that cannot be able to continue their treatments. Also, we heard about people over 80 years taking care of neighbors with difficult access to provision for their diets, and also elder people taking care of children with severe mental health problems. So it's a situation very difficult. The elderly population is struggling here, but those stories bring us a second phase. The second phase, we focus on training the caregivers. The university had already a program that trains the caregivers free of cost, but after this story, we have to, let's say, readjust the offer, and we provide basic training in nutrition, finances, legal rights, developing stages, medical attention, a correct use of medicine management, also mental health, self-care, care at home, and a few others. But also we have last Saturday, we graduated 50 family caregivers in our school. So it's a huge goal of the university and also of the program. Among other activities that we have to develop, we create support groups after the visits in the communities, because the symptoms of burnout in those caregivers was evidence. They were struggling with no electricity, no water, no home, and no support for families. So these meetings gave us an opportunity to coordinate appointments and referrals for psychological help, and also to avoid mistreatments in the elderly. I know that Dr. Torres said something about the suicide, and when we saw the statistics, we know, as Oscar said, it's not like we have to see the statistic with cautions, but those numbers demand attention. So we create a training, we offer a training for personnel that work in centers regarding the suicide prevention. We offer workshops for them free of cost. We were surprised by the amount of people that respond to our offering. So in that workshop, the participants were trained how to identify self-destructive conduct and verbal expression related to suicide. They also practice in how to approach a person and persuade to accept the necessary referrals. After that, the Department of Family, as you know, a government agency, requests us to train 100 administrators and social workers from the region of Ponce. Also, to further that impact of the prevention of suicide, we also visit care centers of elderly. In those centers, we offer information regarding management, loss, and the grief, because people lost by the immigration, their families, their kids, their grandchildren. So there was in a grief symptoms of space. But also we have working in the last month, offering workshops to graduate students that are practicing in psychology clinics with techniques for caregivers to manage emotion, stress, and also the availability of different helping tools. But at this point, I think that one of our work that we're trying to focus on is in the research of the characteristics and needs especially for the caregivers. We're moving around 30 municipalities, and in a preliminary analysis, we have found that 79% of our caregivers are females, with an average age of 49 years old. 52% have a job. 56% take care of an elderly the entire week. So it's the primary caregiver. 86% are concerned about cannot bring an effective care to the person. 61 have fear of making a mistake while performing a caregiver task. 72% believe their own physical health will be affected by the task, and 77% believe that their own emotional health could be affected by taking care of their elder. That's part of the work that we have been doing here in the university with the senior population and their caregivers. If you have any question.
So I do have one question, Dr. Munoz. With regards to the caregivers, what other form of psychological first aid training could be provided to bolster the resiliency of caregivers on the island?
Well, we have been working on the expression of the emotion. They feel stress, they feel guilt, they feel that they have to resolve the world about the person. But sometimes we're trying to let them know that it's okay when you think and feel that you cannot handle anymore. Because when you feel like that, when you accept that, you can move on, search available resources to help in a better way.
Okay, so we'll take a question over here. Sorry for taking so long to get to.
No, it's fine.
You can introduce yourself, your affiliation, and then ask the question.
Sure. My name is Rodriguez, and I'm an educator and a journalist. I also have my own history with dealing with mental health issues, and one of my questions is, I have two. One is, I know that
See, I can hear.
The mayor's wife had sent over some mental health practitioners to do some training, and I was curious if you work with them or connected with them. And then my second question is kind of speaking to Oscar's idea of the cultural connection is, what are some holistic ways, because I see mental health as not just talk therapy, but having music, having art, having spaces to create. And so I'm interested in kind of what are those initiatives holistically looking at mental health, both stateside for the Puerto Ricans who are here and also on the island, if you see those types of initiatives, also including like, let's say acupuncture or just other kind of alternative healing methods that take into account the culture of the people.
Okay, Dr. Munoz, were you able to get all of that?
No. No.
So you can just rephrase the first part of your question.
Is there like a mic and I'll just speak into
You can sit over here, maybe.
I cannot hear her.
Yeah.
I can hear.
I see.
So just, if you could just restate the first question.
I think
So
it's better than-
my first, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I do.
much better, much better.
So my first question is just if you've connected with the mental health workers who've come from New York. There was a group that de Blasio's wife, I'm forgetting her name, but she sent, what's her name?
Charlene?
Yes, Charlene McCrae. If you've connected with them, and then my second question is what kind of initiatives, alternative mental health, holistic mental health, that's not just talk therapy, and I heard Angel talk about like nutrition and all of that. I also think of music, art, kind of creative spaces. What kind of initiatives do you see happening both in Puerto Rico and stateside with the Puerto Ricans who are living here now? Thank you.
Okay. We don't have the with the mayor, you said?
Yes.
No.
Did you answer the Thrive NYC project?
So the answer is no. We are in the south of the island, and many of these visits stay at the north in San Juan, and etc. So the answer for the first question is no, not at this point. To the second question, Holistic, well, our curriculum in the school try to be very holistic and integrando all the part that the person has. We don't have art, we don't have music yet, but we trying to focus on the self-care. Self-care, doing some things, those things that they like, do not to forget themselves during the care of the elderly. I don't know if I answer your question.
Okay.
Can I comment something?
Yes, please,
Quickly.
please comment.
Angel, that one of the objectives of this encounter here is connect the dot. We need to break that the help just stay in the north. It's not any reason why the international help or the United States help come and just stay in the north. If we know that they have this kind of program, maybe you can connect and ask directly if they can bring some kind of support to your project. And that is very important, because right now we need to understand that we need to move quickly, because the Puerto Rico is the whole island, not only the north.
Yeah.
Or the coast. We don't talk about the mountain also, the central region. Okay, so maybe this is a suggestion that it can help. I don't know how you can jump the bureaucracy of the university, but I'm pretty sure that I can give you some names in private so they can help you.
Of course, thank you. But our program have participants from the entire island. We would love to do more, and we're working on it. But at this point, our focus is to train the caregivers, because they don't have money to pay professional care. So these families have to take the care home, and they do with love, but without knowledge. So at this point, we're trying to focus on that. But thank you for the observation.
Okay,
I want those numbers, okay? Okay.
We'll take a brief question. We're gonna move to the
It's
wrap up.
It's not a question. I just want to answer some questions. So I work for
If you could please
FIU.
reintroduce yourself again.
Yeah, I work for FIU as assistant professor for the medical school, and I'm a psychiatrist. I have a nonprofit. I'm a board member of a nonprofit that has been working in Puerto Rico called Salud, and it's Puerto Rican Diaspora in Puerto Rico since like 2015. What we're focusing on is the communities in places where nobody else has gone to. We haven't really made any official activities in San Juan just because of that, and I'm so glad to hear that they're working particularly on caregivers, because that's a big issue in Puerto Rico. What we're doing is using a couple of techniques, and that sort of answers your question. We have created a curriculum based on models to help the community leaders process their own trauma and their grief, learn about the normal phases of disaster recovery from the mental health perspective. And we use the principles of mindfulness, which is very holistic and very focused on, just being okay with not being okay. We are partnering up with a couple of nonprofit organizations that are working on other ways to heal through planting, through growing fresh produce, through solar powers. There is a lot of groups that are doing community empowerment through churches and local leadership. They're gathering the communities, telling them how they can become more sustainable, and they're working on solar.
Yeah.
So we're working with the mental health aspects for them. In terms of the domestic violence, the best rate that you can find from the police of Puerto Rico, it's like around 3 to 4K, the rates that were reported in 2017. For the suicide rate.
So I'm actually going to hold off there so that we could wrap up the panel, and then we'll take general Q&As, and then we'll have an opportunity to network. Okay. So just one brief question for all of the panelists here. What are the mental health challenges that those on the island, particularly vulnerable populations, will face as we approach the 2018 hurricane season? And anyone could jump in. Post-traumatic. Okay, elaborate.
The island is not recovered. yeah, and the people feel fear with any kind of notion that any other hurricane is going to hit Puerto Rico. And I know that for the first hand because when I working with Puerto Rican refugees, I citizen also. One of them, they have family there. And we sometimes we need to work and help and support emotional with them because they just have a panic attack because they rain in his town. So, and then they try to call and they don't get the person. And also we have the family in Puerto Rico desperate try to reach them and don't find them, and we have all this kind of panic cycle, and that's only for the rain. So it's something that we need to think a lot because it can be a really deep and general problem.
Dr. Torres or Dr. Munoz, any comments on mental health challenges for the 2018 hurricane?
Well, I think these problems will be much profound as this austerity measures continues. I think we have only received I think $1.9 billion. That accounts for housing and other the allocation of other like housing and business, and the rest is individual households and in other areas. So just to let you know, they make a study an estimation of the full implementation of mental health, and after Katrina, for instance, Katrina and Rita. And 12.5 billion was estimated as something that was needed after the hurricanes. So yeah, Puerto Rico at this moment, yeah, these issues will continue to be much profound. Elder population, as Angel mentioned, they will be the most vulnerable because they are the growing population at this moment. Some of them has been left alone, family has migrated to United States. So we have been dealing with so many, this is a humanitarian crisis. That's the whole point behind this. More important about this. And the mental health sequela that will happen, yes, well, we will receive hurricanes during this season, and yes, as I mentioned, there's significant amount of research that says that yes, that this will continue to happen, and it will be worse. So that's the whole idea about this kind of engagement, kind of activity. So we can, okay, so let's see how can we collaborate together and pinpoint those, identify what are the barriers and in help, in seeking help, and making sure that they receive help, accurate data, and be conscious about how we inform data. I think that's the most important thing about this. Yeah, that's from my.
Thank you very much, Dr. Torres. Dr. Munoz, you get the ability to wrap it up. What do you think are the mental health challenges for the upcoming 2018 hurricanes?
Well, I want to say about the mental health in elderly. Here in Puerto Rico, we know that the elderly population is more than the 20 years old and older population. So it means that we need to bring more effort to work with them, because when the next hurricane season begins, we're gonna see a lot of elderlies with fears, scares, and with those, I don't say in English, sequelas of the Hurricane Maria. So it's gonna be a challenge for all of us. And here in La Escuela para School of Caregivers of the Pontificia, we have a challenge in this area.
Okay, great. One last opportunity for the panelists to provide closing remarks, and then we'll take general questions from the audience. Let's start with Fernando.
Yo no, lo voy a decir en español. Yo creo que es muy importante que no nos olvidemos que podemos hacer una diferencia muy grande tan solo pudiendo escuchar a las personas. La parte emocional de la que yo hablé, que parece menor, es quizá la más importante. Cuando nosotros, las familias fueron a Roberto Clemente después que Oscar fue al hotel, una de las cosas que notamos en una reunión que no duró más de 2 horas, era la necesidad de poder contar lo que habían vivido. Ese espacio no lo habían tenido ni en la isla, y aquí esta urgencia por resolver cosas primarias, básicas, los había dejado sin ese espacio. Y en Clemente todos trabajamos y tenemos grupos, y muchas personas durante el huracán hablaban de eso. Eso fue tema central. Y es muy importante decir esto porque en la clínica tenemos esas posibilidades e integramos todo lo que podemos a las personas, a estos grupos, para que puedan contar la experiencia, ¿no? Y que los que están aquí también puedan de alguna manera aportar elementos de ayuda, de conocimiento de cosas que van surgiendo para poder ayudarlos, ¿no? Los que llegan aquí, inclusive los que están en la isla.
Oscar. ¿En inglés o en español?
Yo lo voy a decir en español. Ya. Yo quiero poner un ejemplo. A mí me preocupa mucho la habilidad de no fragmentar y de no conectar lo que estamos o lo que podemos brindar la ayuda. Voy a poner un ejemplo que estamos trabajando reciente. Estas familias de refugiados puertorriqueños tienen niños en la escuela. Y una de las cosas que están pasando es que el niño en Puerto Rico estaba en 5º grado y aquí se lo están poniendo en 4º grado y en 3º. ¿Qué sucede? Está el factor educativo, yo puedo entender eso. Está también el factor del idioma. El problema que yo tengo es que yo soy el último en enterarme. Yo soy el último en enterarme y yo tengo familias que vienen con síntomas depresivos, madres que vienen con síntomas depresivos, y una de las cosas que realmente descarriló y exacerbó esos síntomas fue esta decisión de la escuela. Porque se la comunican con una carta, con una llamada telefónica. No hay una conciencia del impacto emocional que se tiene en esto. Entonces, por eso, mira, a mí me aterra cada vez que yo veo los esfuerzos del gobierno, de lo que sea, que dice, vamos a integrar mental health en primary care. Mira, nosotros llevamos 35 años integrando primary care en mental health. O sea, porque realmente la base emocional debe liderar esto. En las escuelas, antes de tomar una decisión como esa, hay que preguntarse qué apoyo emocional tiene esta familia. ¿Está recibiendo algún tipo de servicio? Ayudarlos. Porque con ese ejemplo, lo que quiero es que sirva de metáfora al mucho trabajo que hay que hacer para desarrollar una red de comunicación de los que proveen servicios que haga sentido humano. O sea, yo sé que esto puede sonar ideológico, pero es que no sé, yo creo que es lo básico. Y es el sentido común, aunque sea el menos común de los sentidos. Entonces, si algo nos sirve es que se empiezan a desarrollar políticas específicas contando en cuenta con los que están en el field, haciendo el trabajo, y las personas que están recibiendo eso, y que haya una conexión real y un entendimiento de lo importante que es la dimensión emocional en estos procesos.
Oscar, thank you very much. Ángel, again, en inglés o en español, lo que sea.
Si me das la oportunidad, hablo en español. Así que...
Tómala, cógela, que por estar preguntando por oportunidades hemos llegado a esto.
Exacto. Pues bueno, me gustaría cerrar con esto, y es que le pido a la diáspora, le pido a los que emigraron por necesidad, porque les tocó, por la razón que haya sido, que no se olviden de los envejecientes que dejaron acá. No se olviden de ellos aún los necesitan, aunque ellos mismos digan que no y que todo está bien. Los envejecientes necesitan mucho más que alimentos e higiene. Necesitan afecto, necesitan cariño, necesitan sentirse comprendidos, escuchados. Así que por favor le pido a esa diáspora que está allá que no se olviden de los envejecientes que dejaron acá. Denle amor, comprensión y apoyo constante, no solamente en los días de fiesta.
Yo quiero abonar a tu comentario con una poesía de César que dice, algunos, porque es algo tan básico y tan, algunos de tus horas ponen mi vida en perspectiva. Algunos de tus cómo están son terapéuticos para mí, estoy bien. Eso es mentira.
Okay. And Leo, we're going to wrap it up with you again in inglés o en español, lo que tú quieras hacer ahora.
No, sabes que me voy a ir con español, está bien.
Muy bien, muy bien. Muy bien, muy
Ya que todo el mundo, bueno, lo mismo, ¿verdad? En esto, ¿verdad? Concordamos bastante, es que necesitamos que las cosas no sean fragmentadas, necesitamos mayor colaboración. Y nuevamente, ¿verdad? Que nosotros hemos hecho distintas cosas en nuestro plano profesional como plano no profesional. En nuestro, por ejemplo, en mi caso, al igual que Oscar, nos hemos involucrado en organizaciones non-profit como Diaspora por Puerto Rico, así que, ¿verdad? Nosotros identificamos familias que todavía estaban viviendo, por ejemplo, en New York, en los hoteles, que todavía hoy día están en los hoteles, y así fue que empezó todo este proyecto de ver, ¿verdad?, de cómo podemos identificar y los servicios que se pueden brindar. Una cosa que Diaspora por Puerto Rico, por ejemplo, que están convocando, y hago esta convocatoria a todos los que están allí en el panel, es que la semana que viene, el mayo 19, creo que cae sábado, hay unas familias que necesitan apoyo de salud mental, particularmente a las 12, de las 12 en adelante. Para más detalles se pueden comunicar conmigo. También están haciendo actividades para la Día de Madres, que va a ser mañana. Diaspora por Puerto Rico como non-profit va a estar en estos hoteles y van a estar haciéndole algún tipo de actividad para el Día de las Madres.
Usando la cultura para dar apoyo.
Sí.
Okay, thank you, Leo. So we're going to take general questions now from the public. I recognize you first because you had your hand up.
It was just a comment to, lo digo en español también para seguir.
¿Listo en español?
Claro.
This is our first bilingual mingle.
No, que la práctica de Ángel y la escuela que está él, la práctica que está Ángel y la universidad que está él, en Puerto Rico hay muchas universidades con diferentes visiones de la psicología. Hay por lo menos 10 escuelas graduadas que tienen diferentes visiones. Está la UBI, está la Corazón, de la misma manera que New York City has the New School, NYU, all those sort of practices. Esa diversidad de acercarse a la disciplina es tan diversa como en otros lugares. Vamos a acordarnos de eso.
Okay, you had a question then over here. Yes.
Una pregunta.
I'm going to ask you to maybe please come up because the microphone is here, and they're not going to hear you from the back.
Es básicamente creo que para Roberto, obviamente.
Okay.
Además de esa ayuda psicológica, ¿cómo usted está ayudando a esas familias a volver a la normalidad, como dijeron ahorita? O sea, ¿lo están ayudando también a quizás conseguir casa, conseguir trabajo? ¿Están recibiendo también ese tipo de ayuda?
Hay una limitación pragmática de nosotros, ¿no? Lo que sí nosotros ayudamos cuando hacemos y diseñamos los tratamientos es que no perdemos de perspectiva las necesidades básicas y trabajamos en conjunto. Llamamos, conectamos, ayudamos a hacer llamadas. Una de las intervenciones que más se repite, y esto es que a veces son los pequeños detalles. La persona está muy nerviosa para hacer una llamada, para darle un follow-up a housing, ¿verdad? Y realmente, aunque usted crea que este es un pedacito, ¿verdad? Algo pequeño para esa persona es un gran reto. Y a veces que yo coja dentro de la terapia individual, le digo, mira, aquí está el teléfono, vamos a llamar, tú llamas, y yo me le pego. Esto, tienen que, me gustaría que fueran testigos del cambio que hace en la seguridad que genera en la persona.
I would just like to comment on that, and I'm going to comment in English, is that after every disaster, there is a new normal. You're never going back to where you were, but we need to teach our people how to develop that new normal. What is the social cohesion? What is this bond that we're going to create so that people could help recover and become resilient for the next disaster, or the next emergency, or the next crisis that comes up? So we have over here and then over here.
Hi, my name is Melanie Gonzalez. I work at Centro, but I also am co-founder of Bombayo. So we're
If you could just speak up, please.
Okay, we have a 10th annual Bomb Barbecue, but we got the barbecue con bomba, and but specifically with the emphasis of inviting the evacuees, refugees, survivors, whichever.
So we'll let you get a little plug in there to tell us.
But it's not just a plug in because we want people to come, it's because it's creating community in a culturally relevant and competent way. And we understand during the 17 years the power of drums and our cultural aspect of bomba. We know that it's very powerful and that folks need it, and we need it too. So it's not just it's everybody together, and we have plenty of lawn space, and it's a beautiful day to connect.
And when is this happening and where?
I'm passing out flyers.
Okay, for the folks who are on video and for across the.
This is Saturday, May 26th in the Bronx.
Okay, and where in the Bronx?
Grand Concourse, the Andrew Freeman Home.
Okay, great. Yes.
I am so happy. I'm Maria Gutierrez, and I come from Chicago. I'm so happy to hear that you guys started working with the Diaspora also, because we went through a lot of trauma too, not being able to communicate with our families those first 2 weeks. I mean, it was just total chaos. I mean, I couldn't go to work for about 3 days after the hurricane. So I'm really happy to hear that, because that's not something that has been addressed by many other communities. So I'm really happy to hear that you guys, took a step in that direction.
And trauma doesn't just affect the person at the direct experience. There's the trauma after the disaster.
And not only that, we were witnesses of what was happening while these people were in Puerto Rico that had no energy, but we were witnesses, we were watching all the news. So we knew what was going on. So it was very traumatic.
So we're going to take one last question here, and then we're going to break and allow an opportunity to network. Yes?
I do not.
If you could just introduce yourself, your affiliation, and
Sure. So my name is Christina Hernandez. I am a relatively new New Yorker by way of Florida, and was very involved in the post-response to the Pulse shooting, which happened in Orlando among the Latino community. 23 dead Puerto Ricans, 96% of the victims of the 49 were Latinos. And in that moment, what we realized that despite having, 1 million Puerto Ricans in Florida, millions of Latinos generally, that our local governments were not equipped with culturally competent response to trauma for what we went through. So myself and a couple of others, we started a nonprofit called Somos Fernando to respond to the mental health needs of the Latino community for the short term and long term, knowing that this was going to be like a long-term trauma and recovery process that would be triggered by the next mass shooting, by, et cetera. I do not come from a mental health background. I've just always been involved in the community, and I got thrown into a situation that I did not have training for, right? So I totally understand having to treat the treaters, if that makes sense. But one of the things that we were guided on was to not really highlight the suicides that were occurring because of, potential copycat effects, right? So my question is, now I'm in a different role where I'm crafting more of narratives of what's coming out of the island and talking about what's happening with Maria as opposed to being in the community per se. So what is the best way to tackle this conversation where we know that these suicides are happening, that this is a result of things that are not being dealt with on the island, but without triggering or causing this copycat effect that folks talked about related to Pulse, but now also with the anniversary of Maria coming up and all these other things. What's the best way from a non-mental health standpoint to talk about that in the community?
So when you say non-mental health, you mean non-clinical?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I say I don't even know the answer to that. Okay. I do not come from your background.
Sure. So Leo, let's start with you.
Okay. So yeah, again, the idea I think you know, one of the ideas, and that's why I include communities in the way that I introduce my topic. The community-based organization has been doing outstanding work, but again, we don't know the there's no document data on that. We only know by anecdotal experience. So the idea of how to engage in conversations from a non-mental health perspective is like something like the approach of Angel, the one that they use in the University of Puerto Rico in Ponce. Include the family, have these conversations with them, normalize this, how can they be part of it when there is no mental health? Again, mental health, it can be your neighbor who can be there for you, your friend, your sister, your parent. So we have been seeing like there's like a disconnect within the same family. Mental health should be something like we are talking about sex. Well, like, I'm sorry, yeah, like sex also is a taboo even in family. So we need to engage in this kind of conversation. It starts from home. So I think like an approach similar to that one, I think it should be something great in terms of identify emotions, talking about that. And I think it's also, there's like this gender gap between men and women, how to communicate with this. So I think it's something really important, how men engage in mental health. Usually it's related to performance. For women, it's more natural to talk about between friends and family, but for men, it's not like that. Usually it's translated into risk behavioral conducts. So I think having that kind of conversation is important. So yeah, overall is that. And I know that that time is limited, but again, there's a list that I share between the among the members of the audience. If you want to collaborate, those nonprofits. Of course, at the beginning, the initial proposal was mapping this mental health response in Puerto Rico, but I have been hearing that in the panel, there's nonprofits working in the mainland. So I think it's also something needed also to be addressed. If you're interested also in being part of this, feel free to contact me as well.
Okay. Very quick question, because we have to wrap up in 1 minute.
3 things. The copycat issue in society it needs to be looked because it's part of this is a myth. Okay, talking about suicidal ideation help the person to change mind. Second thing is help that you have in your wallet some kind of direct line, not only by phone, also by text, so you can provide the person. And the third thing is ask directly. You want to kill yourself? And see, the question is yes, just
The follow-up.
follow up with and all of that.
And that's actually part of the mental health first aid training that is being done through Thrive FRC.
So I don't know if says.
So I want to say thank you to our distinguished panel. We want to give them a hand. Thank you to Hunter College and the Center for Puerto Rican Studies. Thank you to audience members for your participation. If you like, we're going to stick around for a couple of minutes if you have any other questions, or if you just like to network and talk more about this issue, we'd be more than happy to stay around. So again, thank you very much, everyone.
Very great.
Okay. All right. Yes. Yes.
Doctora Cabán, ¿me escucha?
Ya, yo te escucho. ¿Me escuchas?
¿Me escuchas, David? Había alguien que la doctora Cabán en la audiencia, pero yo creo que ella...
¿Cómo?
La doctora Cabán.
Sí.
¿Ella está en el área?
No, yo creo que se fue. ¿También quería hablar?
Sí, no, era con ella porque ella también está trabajando con Puerto Rico, que quizás también conectarla con Ángel.
Ok. No.
Ok, porque yo la voy a... Ángel, yo te voy a poner en comunicación con ella también.
Perdóname, Leo, ¿qué me dijiste?
Que te voy a poner en comunicación con la doctora Cabán, porque ella está haciendo trabajo en Puerto Rico, en diferentes partes de Ponce también. Pero ahora fue que me enteré, fue que me envió un email. Pero yo luego te comunico, no te preocupes. ¿Está bien?
Sí, por favor, para ver si ampliamos esta red de apoyo.
Claro que sí, hombre. Tremenda presentación.
Igual. Un abrazo.
Sí. Un abrazo, bien.
Okay, perfecto.
Leo.
Ajá.
Leo. So there was a question about what are Leo and Angel. There was a question about what is the opportunity, or what is it that the faith-based community in Puerto Rico might be doing to help around mental health?
Okay.
Perdón, no la escuché muy bien.
So the question is, what are the? Oh, go ahead.
¿Qué es lo que hacen qué es lo que están haciendo las iglesias en general o una iglesia en particular para darle apoyo a los profesionales que bregan con la salud mental, para ayudar a la gente a echar para adelante y bregar con ese trauma y con los pensamientos de suicidio y todo eso? ¿Están recibiendo apoyo de los pastores, los sacerdotes, los ministros?
Sí, ¿te puedo cortar en español?
Yeah, a follow-up question to be with, what are we providing faith-based communities? What training are we giving them so that they could give mental health support?
¿La puedes contestar en español, Ángel?
Pues la iglesia se han convertido en un apoyo, porque nos han brindado, por lo menos hablo de la experiencia desde la Pontificia, nos han brindado el espacio para que la comunidad alrededor de por ejemplo, las parroquias, lleguen hasta la iglesia y allí brindarle el apoyo emocional y psicológico. ¿Por qué? Porque las comunidades de la montaña no tienen la viabilidad para llegar hasta donde están las clínicas. Otra cosa es que se han quedado sin vehículos, sin trabajo. Entonces, pues, para evitar que ellos tengan que llegar hasta acá, hasta la ciudad, las parroquias nos brindan ese espacio. Nosotros subimos con estudiantes como profesionales y hacemos clínicas de salud. Clínicas de salud para tanto con médicos que le hacen el chequeo físico, y entonces la parte emocional y psicológica, pues nos brindan el espacio y lo trabajamos. Así que la respuesta es que la iglesia ha sido una colaboración genial.
Amén.
Okay, gracias. Leo, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for allowing me to be the moderator here. I had a great time. My
Gracias,
first
Fernando.
bilingual mingle panel discussion.
Thank you, Fernando. Pleasure to meet you as well.
Ángel, un placer.
Igualmente, muchas gracias.
Okay.
Nos vemos.
Nos vemos. Bien.